Hey guys, Lucas Soccer here. Today we have a new type of video. This is going to be a 1 hour coaching session. Now, I used to offer coaching about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. My schedule's just become too full to where I can't delegate an hour in the middle of the day to do a coaching session. So what I'm going to do as an alternative is just do a general, like kind of coaching session for everybody. This is going to be a much longer video. If you guys look at the duration of this video, it should be like an hour long if I've got this planned right. But it's going to take a lot more time for me to put effort into a video like this. So if you guys could really run up the video, like it, comment on the video, I would really appreciate it. And I can definitely do this for other decks. If you guys want to see it for a specific deck, leave it in the comment section down below and we'll go over everything that has to do with that deck. Starting off in a coaching session, the first thing that I really like to do is focus on you and what you are trying to achieve in the game, your goals. For me, when I first started playing the game, my goal was to top a regional, right? That was my first goal. When I was coming back to the game, COVID was just kind of clearing up and we were going back to events again. My goal was to top a regional. I spent a lot of time and I achieved that goal. Going forward, as I achieved the thing that I wanted, I strived for the next goal. Usually I want people to lay out 3 goals. If you're just starting out and you're just trying to like evolve your competitive play, you may be looking to get your invite, right? That might be your goal number 1. Your second goal might be to top a regional. I think that's really good. Getting top 8 at a regional, getting some actual prizing, great thing. And then your goal may be, like your third and final goal that we're trying to set up for this series of things, maybe to top a YCS. And that's a very hard thing to accomplish right now, considering some people only consider a top to be top 8. I still think it's anywhere in top 32 where you actually receive prizing, because that's what Konami really considers it as. But if that's what your goal is, that's a great thing. I think you should write those things down, and I think you should try to plan out what events you're going to try to accomplish these on. If you're trying to do it by the end of the year, or trying to do it by nationals, just write that down. Get a goal and a plan set. We're going to do this video specifically on Mitsurugi Yummy. That's the deck that I've had the most recent success with, and that's the deck that I'm honestly the most comfortable with and I have the most experience on. If you ask me about Draco Tail, I'm still very proficient in anything that has to do with Draco Tail. However, the deck that I had the most success with recently is obviously going to be the one that I think we should look at first. Starting off, this is the deck list that I'm going to be using for the entirety of this coaching video. This is my exact deck list card for card from YCS Pittsburgh. YCS Pittsburgh, I got top 8. I ended up losing to myself to misplaying in top 8. If you guys want to look at my previous video, I go over that entire thing. But yeah, this is the deck list. The only interesting things to really talk about is the non-engine, as well as the purification that's in the main deck, and the fact that I chose to not play the extra Mitsurugi bricks and the alternatives that we could play instead. The reason I chose to play Purification is because Purification is a fantastic card into all of the Floodgate hand traps. That's one of the hardest things for this deck is to deal with the Floodgate hand traps. And what I mean by that is Fuwalos, Meows, even like Perilia, Droll, right? These cards that are supposed to be really, really good against you and trying to like FTK you out of the game and give your opponent a chance when they are going second. However, playing the trap card and being able to like stop their strongest counterplay into your board is definitely something that you should be doing, especially with people main decking Dark Ruler more and more. If you go look at the last YCS, a lot of the decks in the top 8 and even the top 32 were just maining Dark Ruler. And it's a little bit scary going into a format where if they do Dark Ruler, your board kind of shrivels down to like a very small amount because you can't even use the Prayers effect to revive if you do get Dark Ruler. Since this card says, after this effect resolves, your opponent takes no damage, and Mitsurugi Prayers specifically says you take 800 damage to special summon. So if they Dark Ruler, you can't even special summon with Prayers. And so it does diminish your board down quite a bit. That's why I thought Purification was the correct choice for the main deck. The reason that I didn't choose to play the Mitsurugi bricks in the deck is because I thought the most important thing for this event was winning going second. It's a very die roll dependent format right now because, I mean, every deck is like basically FTKing you when they go first. I mean, they're playing 40 bricks and their whole goal is just, man, I really hope I don't get Fuwalos. Or if I do get Fuwalos, I hope I draw Called by or Crossout because for some reason I'm maining those cards even though Crossout's like not good going second, right? Their goal is to just set up the most unbeatable board possible. And so if we're building our deck to strategize around what other people are doing, we should be building our deck to beat those decks. And the way we can do that is with non-engine. Having those cards in our deck isn't efficiently countering them having it in theirs. And so that's why I chose to play the smaller package here. It does still get you to everything. The whole argument with playing the bigger package is like, technically if you're playing a fair game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And you're getting to like resolve your Mitsurugi cards, like you do get more pushes going second by having Kusanagi in your deck, by having Aramasa, by getting the ability to add back Ritual Spell and Ritual Spell again. However, that's really never resolving, right? Like let's be totally honest here. If your opponent resolves their combo because you play less non-engine in your deck, you're never actually going to resolve Mitsurugi Ritual to tribute a Kusanagi and add back the Ritual Spell and then activate the Ritual Spell to do a bunch of things. That's just never really happening. And so I think that argument is kind of flawed in the fact that people are using it as an argument to play these cards in their deck. As far as the non-engine, I thought the non-engine that I played was pretty perfect. It's pretty well balanced between focusing for Draco Tail and focusing for the Mirror, because those are really the only two decks in the format. I mean, there's some other ones. There's like Malice was pretty popular, the Pure Yummy variant, Soulful Cord Yummy variants, and Canine decks. There's like some other decks, but the main two decks, like by far, is Draco Tail and the Mirror. I think in top 8 there was 4. I mean, I don't think there was 4 like Mitsurugi Yummy builds, and there was 3 Draco Tail builds. And so preparing your deck for those matchups is like a super, super important thing. Even though Droplet's not super fantastic into the mirror match because you lose a lot of card advantage, having that as a card that's super, super powerful into Draco Tail is just a reason that you should be playing this. The side deck here, one thing that's different about my list is I played Perulia. A lot of us weren't playing Perulia for this YCS. The reason I chose to play Perulia is it's kind of a skill check card, and going through 14 rounds of Swiss is a little bit difficult. It's really hard. I'll be honest. That the new YCS format is very, very difficult, and Perulia being able to counter the Mitsuyami players when they open like an awkward hand, or counter them when they're just like not super, super comfortable with getting Perulia because it's not a thing they've really experienced. Even in testing, like no one's really testing Perulia. I think it has a good impact into them, and it will still reduce their board size while always like replenishing itself or maybe even another card. But like it also covers like every other rogue possible matchup. At a YCS or a regional or even like any bigger event, even like an OCS, you should expect to play against some rogue. And a lot of the rogue right now, it's going to be like Malice, K9, and Pure Yummy, the things I mentioned earlier, Soulful Cord Yummy. Perulia is really good versus those decks, so that's why I chose to play Perulia, and also fit really well for the side deck patterns. If you guys saw my deck profile, I also am only setting 4 go first cards, even though I'm main decking 6 hard go second cards. And the reason I'm doing that is because of Crossout. Since Crossout's such a powerful card when going first, because like I said, I mean, post side, I think it's totally fair to try to just FTK your opponent. Just do the most ignorant thing you can. And Crossout does definitely help you do that. But it also lets you like optimize your side deck space. Because like as you can see, I'm playing 6 Chummies, which cover a lot of the matchups, 5 cards just for Draco Tail, and then 4 cards for going first. Whereas opposed to, I should technically be playing 6 cards for going first, but I don't have to because I can utilize Crossout and the diversibility that it covers by doing my side deck patterns like this. Let's go ahead and look at the main theory for this deck and what people are really doing wrong. Everybody knows the classic Draco Tail, classic Mitsu Yummy combos. I'm going to show them to you just really fast. That way we're on the same basis. We both know what we're doing here. I'm going to show you the 1-card combo for just having Marshmallow. You also need any discard, so we're just going to put like a Dark Ruler in our hand, and I'll show it off to y'all. You start off by special summoning Marshmallow. You link 1, you get Snatchy effect. Snatchy is going to place your field spell, and then you're going to get the field spell effect to revive your guy here. You're going to synchro these off into Cupsy Yummy Way, and then use the effect. You're going to add your Cupsy and then whatever name you want to. It really depends on what matchup you're playing against, which one you want to add, whether you're adding Lollipo or whether you're adding Cookie. I think right now it's probably better just to add Lollipo directly. It covers basically every matchup, but also like Lollipo is better into a grind, being able to like slowly banish the resources even if you can't get to Cookie. It's a little bit better overall. I'm going to do this picture Dark Ruler, and then we're going to special summon the Cupsy Yummy from our hand. We're going to use the effect of that to go ahead and add our surprise. From here, we're going to do things a little bit differently because we open Marshmallow as our combo. Helps you play around Nib a little bit better. You're going to immediately synchro these off into a Samsara Sorrow Cat up in the EMZ. And then you can normal summon your Lollipokes. We didn't normal summon. Synchro these off into Herald, and then link off the Herald into Gravity Controller. We're going to use the effect of Herald now to go ahead and add. That is going to get us into our Habakiri. If they did nib you, by the way, then you could still play very successfully because you can revive your Sorrow Cat, putting back the Cupsy anyway, and then we can use Surprise, summon back our Marshmallow, still get to Herald, and then turn like the token and Herald into IP. So like you still play through nib very, very efficiently in this combo. We're going to use the Habakiri here, special summon Saji, tribute the Saji, and then Saji is going to use the effect to add our Mitsurugi Ritual. We're then going to use Ritual to summon from deck. The reason we're summoning from deck first is because we basically checked for Ash Blossom like a million times. If they don't Ash Blossom your Saji, then, I mean, that's just wrong. They don't know if you're playing the big package or if you're playing the small package. So right here, you could activate to summon from deck, and they would just be really, really sad. So we're going to go ahead and summon from deck here by tributing the Habakiri. So we special the Murakumo from our deck, and then we're going to get the Habakiri effect to add Mirror. And now, so if we summon from hand first, we'd have to tribute our Murakumo. We'd get the mirror in our hand, and then we could activate our mirror. But if they belled our mirror, we wouldn't have our Murakumo properly summoned. But also, if they belled the mirror in this situation, we can chain the Murakumo to like hand rip them. But we're gonna go ahead and activate this. Pretend we didn't get interacted with at all. Summon back the Habakiri, and then we can use the effect of Murakumo to go ahead and special summon himself out here, and then add prayers. So you can also do this a different route if you're wanting to. If you're wanting to get the trap card on your field, you can actually play a little bit more conservatively. And let's just go over that now. The trap card variation of the inboard is usually what I do prefer to go for, but you can also end with prayers just because it does give you a little bit more diversity in the board. If you are going for the board that's going to end with purification, what you'll do is you will leave this mirror in your hand for a second, and you won't even activate this. We're going to get to Herald first, and then we'll go for that. So we're just going to pretend that we just summoned this Murakumo from our deck. We tributed the Habakiri added mirror. Nothing else has happened. We're now going to use our surprise, special back this Marshmallow from grave, and then use the effect of the Marshmallow to add our surprise right back. We can then synchro these two off, go into our Lollipo, use Lollipo effect to revive 2 level 1s. Once again, it doesn't really matter which level 1s you revive here. And then we can use our Sorrow Cat to put back our Herald to special summon from graveyard here. If they nib us here, we'll get the effect of Murakumo to special summon back, and then you can use that to either add prayers, or you can use it to add purification, and then you can use the Murakumo to go ahead and destroy their nib. So you'll have a little bit of follow-up here if you do get nibbed, and then you'll have the surprise plus Murakumo plus whatever like spell or trap you search off of that Murakumo effect. We're going to go ahead and synchro now. Pretending we don't get nibbed, go into a Herald of the Arclight, and then you can do the mirror thing that we just talked about earlier. We're going to go ahead and summon back our Habakiri from the graveyard, tribute our Murakumo, and then we can use Murakumo here. And this is the variation where you get to add the trap, and then you just link these two off into an IP. This is usually how I set things up. It plays into Mech Knights, but it makes your Herald not able to get Animud. I think this is important because a lot of the Yummy lists are actually choosing to play Anima instead of Link Karibo, so you might as well play around it. I mean, losing to yourself because you just decide to put things in random zones is never a good thing. But we're going to go ahead and set these two now, and this is your 1-card combo. Plays around Nib very efficiently. You play through basically every board breaker in the game because you have like 2 very hard Omni Negates. Your opponent's hand's going to be like super decreased in size because you have 3 cards that just immediately trade for 1 card in their hand, and then you have all of the other interactions you could possibly need. Now, one thing that's really cool with having the trap card on your board, a lot of time with the Mitsurugi stuff, if you only end with the trap card, you have to use your Murakumo wipe in combination with your purification. What I mean by that is when you use your purification, you'll have to go Murakumo mirror now to go ahead and summon back the Murakumo. And this would mean you'd have to board wipe here because you wouldn't have another way to summon it. But because we're ending with IP and this deck does play Dynamundo, you don't have to use the board wipe whenever you summon that back. You can go to Dynamundo, get a Dynamundo spin by shuffling back the Habakiri, and then whenever you want, you can use the Dynamundo effect to tribute and special back the Murakumo. So you have like a lot of diversity in the board, and obviously the board is basically unbreakable. The scariest thing they can do is activate double Dark Ruler, and if they do double Dark Ruler you probably win the game still. I mean, you have so much. You have the surprise to go into Yummy cards, and you're getting a lot of follow-up off of that anyway, so I don't really think there's a way that you're going to lose in that situation. One thing you need to remember as well is that Herald does have the add effect here. A lot of people that I've seen, they go for their inboard, and they just totally forget to add off of this Herald during their opponent's turn. What you are going to try to do a lot of the time is you try to actually use your purification first. That way you can go Chainlink 1 Murakumo, Chainlink 2 Mirror, and you shuffle your Mirror back into the deck. And then you use your Murakumo to usually add like a Prayers as like the type of follow-up here. And then whenever you Herald negate, you can use your Herald to actually add Mirror because you shuffled it back into your deck. And now you have like a couple different... where's my Mirror? Here it is. Okay, now you have a couple different lines of follow-up. You have Prayers, which can obviously be used to revive. You have your Purification, which can revive your Murakumo if you need, and you have Mirror to like get you back onto it. So you get a lot of follow-up off of it. Not even mentioning like the follow-up you get from the Cupsy, from the Marshmallow add back. There's a lot of different things you're gonna get like follow-up wise for this, but this is like the main 1-card combo for the deck that I've been doing with this build. The other version of the combo is like when you just open Mitsu cards. We can go through that one really fast as well, just so once again we're on the same page here. Let's see here. We're gonna get this guy. You don't need a discard in this combo, but it's nice to have depending on what actually happens to you. You go Haba. Haba summons your Saji. You kill Saji, and then Saji is going to use the effect to add your Mitsurugi Ritual. Once again, you checked for Ash Blossom here, so you might as well summon from deck. That way you can play around Bell a little bit better, because that card does see pretty decent play. We're going to summon our Murakumo. You're going to get the effect of Habakiri to add your mirror, and then you're going to mirror to summon back your Habakiri here, triggering the Murakumo, and then Murakumo effect is going to add a Prayers. Specifically in this version of the combo, you do have to add back Prayers, or else you won't have a way to get back to your Mitsurugi stuff. And then from here, you just overlay these, go into a Zombie Vampire, and then you're going to use the effect of Zombie Vampire. The odds the Zombie Vampire hits here, very, very good. Droll is in pretty much everybody's deck, but also you have like a bunch of yummy names in your deck, right? So here we'll get to full combo them, because we'll turn this Zombie Vampire into a Gravity Controller. I'm not going to go through this full line here, because it really depends on what you mill. Because if this hits like a Cup C, then it could be totally different. But you get the gist. I mean, we're off to the races now. We have our Cookie in rotation. We have a Link 1. We can just synchro into Cup C and do literally whatever we want to, right? One thing that is cool to mention here, that we actually did mill the minion. In the situations where you mill your minion here, what you do is you actually use the Cup C synchro to add Marshmallow, and then you discard like a random card from your hand, and then you special the Marshmallow and use that to add back the minion. And you just keep the surprise in your hand. You actually never use the surprise to special summon, because if you do use it, then you lose out on adding back the surprise. But this gives you your minion back in rotation, so you don't lose out onto it just because you milled. So those are like the two main combos for the deck. The one other thing I wanted to show you here is actually how you can play around those Floodgate hand traps that I talked about. This combo here is specifically for Droll. Droll is like the biggest counter to this deck in most people's minds, because, I mean, Mitsurugi cards lose to Droll, right? And if you're losing it on yummy like ads while also cutting off an entire engine with the Mitsu stuff, it does get pretty sad. I am going to show you the 2-card combo here. This can be any yummy name, literally any yummy name at all. It can even be Cupsy, and you can choose to forego your Cupsy effect to play around Droll. And then this card here, this can be Prayers or Habakiri. You'll just use your Prayers in the draw phase to add Habakiri. But we're just going to start by using the Marshmallow Special Summon. Then I'm going to link off into Snatchy, use the Snatchy effect. That is going to get us to our minion. We're going to minion effect to special summon back our Marshmallow. And this is where everything pivots, right? And this is where like you basically show your opponent that you have 2 lines of play. You're going to activate your Habakiri, and then in response to your Habakiri, you're going to chain your own Snatchy effect. You're going to synchro off of these 2, going into Cupsy Yummy Way. And then we're going to resolve the Habakiri, special Saji, and tribute it off. And now the chain link we're going to go for here is we're going to go chain link 1 Cupsy Yummy Way, chain link 2 Saji. And this is phenomenal, right? We're going to get 3 adds here, all in one chain. And now if our opponent draws us, we're already so far into the turn that it really doesn't affect us, right? So we're going to get our Saji effect here. We're going to add our Mitsurugi Ritual. And then with our Cupsy Yummy, we're going to add our Cupsy, as well as like whatever name you want to. We're going to add Lollipop, right? And you'll just discard any card from your hand. It doesn't really matter. If they draw you here, you have so much, because you're going to use your Yummy stuff, which is still going to get you to Herald. And then you can use the Mitsurugi Ritual to just summon the Murakumo from your deck. And because you have so many bodies, you can actually end with IP as well. And so your Murakumo is going to be used to rip their hand, and then you can use IP with the Murakumo to go into Dynamundo to shuffle their stuff, and then Dynamundo to revive the Murakumo during their turn for a full board wipe. So you'll still get to literally everything off of this 2-card combo through Droll. The only thing you kind of lose out to is Surprise, but that's whatever. Like, who cares? You'll get to so much stuff anyways. It doesn't really affect you at all. The other cool thing here is Ash Blossom. A lot of people will Ash Blossom the Saji just instinctively because Saji stops Mitsurugi stuff, but that's not really true. So if they do Ash Blossom your Mitsurugi Ritual, what you'll do is you'll just do the 1-card combo from this point. So we'll like summon this the Cupsy, use that to add Surprise. And then we'll do the same thing that we just talked about earlier. We like make Sorrow Cat, normal this guy, turn these guys into Herald, Herald into Gravity Controller. Except this time we'll just use the Herald to add the Mitsurugi Ritual, because this card doesn't have to add Habakiri. It can add Mitsurugi Ritual as well. Add 1 Ritual Monster or 1 Ritual Spell from your deck to your hand. So now we have this. This is like the same thing you had like 45 seconds ago, right? Like in the 1-card combo. So Ash effectively does nothing versus this combo, which is really, really strong. But also that's how you really play around Droll effectively in this deck. The other Floodgate hand traps are scary. Once again, like what I mean by Floodgate hand traps, I'm talking about like the chummies. So Wallows, Pirellia, Meows. Those are scary, but those are kind of done on like a case-by-case basis. Really, it gets difficult to break down how you're supposed to play around those, because it really just depends on what your hand is and which Mitsurugi cards you draw. In this deck, going second is pretty straightforward. It's really just about your sequencing and how you want to use your engine cards. Starting off, you want to almost always use your Mitsurugi cards when you're going second as your first action. And this is a really good example because we have actually 2 access to Mitsurugi cards, but you want to use your Mitsurugi cards because your goal is to summon Murakumo, which clears the entire front row that they would have, right? You want to try to simplify the game state so that your Yummy cards can resolve, because this is a Yummy Mitsurugi deck, right? Like the main goal is the Yummy cards, and so we try to get the Mitsurugi cards to resolve. One thing that would make this different about how you're like going to sequence it, because most of the time, like I said, it's all your Mitsurugi cards, and then after you do all your Mitsurugi cards, then you do all of your Yummy cards, and that's just really how you try to get your stuff to resolve. It's a little bit different in the exact situation that you open 2 Yummy or 2 Mitsurugi lines and you open Marshmallow with another Yummy line. And what I mean by that is you'll still start with your Mitsurugi stuff, trying to get this to someone onto the field. That way you can clear off like all of their front row disruptions, all of their other like scary threats, right? But one thing that happens all the time is you'll end up like having this die. You'll have like this in graveyard, you'll have this in graveyard, you'll have like a mirror in your hand, and like this in hand or something like that, right? And this will be your situation, and you can use your prayers technically to revive and get more bodies here. You could even go like mirror, tribute this, revive, and prayers to get 2 bodies, which like effectively breaks the board really well. But if you do that, you lose out on the Marshmallow push. So a lot of the time, if you do open like this specific hand of having 2 Mitsu push and 2 Yummy push with one of them being Marshmallow, it's use your Mitsu push, then use your Marshmallow. That way you can get value out of this like special summon. Take this Marshmallow like as far as it can, like Hail Mary it down the entire field until eventually the Marshmallow line stops working. And then from there, you can use your Mitsurugi cards to interact with them again. Whether it's like special summon the Murakumo to like threaten stuff, use your prayers to revive like a Saji, and then go for like a Dynamundo, something like that. You want to threaten the field as much as possible with the Mitsurugi stuff, even though you like already threatened a lot of it with the first action and the Marshmallow. You want to try to get as much through as possible using the next Mitsu push, and then you begin doing your normal summon Yummy line. The only time this is like different really, on top of like the Marshmallow line, is if you have like a Fuwalos that you top decked, or like a Droll or something that's kind of useless that you're going to normal summon into an Almirage, because sometimes you may want to like normal that first. That way you can actually use the Almirage's protection effect, because that does come up a lot of the time, especially into the mirror match. Being able to use Almirage to like protect your guy is super, super important. That's basically the entirety of going second with this deck broken down. I mean, there are still going to be times where you're going to sequence your stuff differently because your opponent has interactions that you know about, or you have different non-engine things, like you have an Ash Blossom that you're going to use on like a Prayers, or you have an Ash Blossom that you're going to use on like an MTP, right? Or you have like a Droplet. There may be times where you sequence things differently, but that is like basically the gist of how you want to use these cards going second. Let's look at some matchups. We've discussed earlier about what decks are in the format. There's Draco Tail, there's the Mirror, and those are the main 2. Now, if we look at the subcategories of like decks that are still getting played, like the Rogue decks, there's the Canine variants. Those break down into like Vanquish Soul, which still sees some play, and breaks down into Christian Canine, which does still see some play with Spell Canceller. And then there's like the pure Yummy variations, so like Yummy, Soulful Chord, I still consider that like pretty much pure Yummy. And then the last thing would be like Malice. Malice is a deck that's still seeing pretty popular representation. So we'll go over all of those decks and like really how you're supposed to like play against them and side deck against them. So into Draco Tail, when you're going second, the siding pattern is pretty simple. You're going to bring in all 5 of the cards that you usually bring in, like that you'd assume to bring in versus that deck, because they're just absolutely broken into them. That's the 2 Double Cyclones, the 3 Retaliating Seed. But you're also going to bring in Nib, Crossout, and Talons. And the reason that you're bringing in Nib and Crossout is because these cards are very, very good to prevent you from getting like FTK. The scariest part about the Draco Tail board is not the board that they create. It's the Nib that's in their hand that they have like literally 500% of the time. Like I think if they resolve the 3 trap cards to draw, the math on it, I think it's 1,000%. I think they have a 1,000% chance to have Nib. So you do actually want to have Crossout with Nib into your deck, because that's what's going to efficiently push through the board. We're going to take out the 3 Dark Rulers. Even though we're going like second into this deck, the deck doesn't actually effectively set up anything that we're wanting to Dark Ruler and trade our entire battle phase for. So we're taking out the 3 Dark Rulers. We're also going to take out 2 Drolls. Droll is a good card for the Crossout, but we don't want to have the Droll versus their engine, because it's just not going to be efficient enough versus them. And now we have to take out some engine cards. Obviously, we're taking out the Purification because we're going second into this deck. We don't need Purification. And then the two other engine cards I take out one Habakiri and one Pre-Preparation of Rites. This is to maximize the amount of efficiency you have in your decks. You're trying to decrease the amount of redundancy, and opening two Habakiris or two pre-prep or Mirror plus pre-prep is obviously not great, and so you try to reduce the chances that do actually happen. You're going to have more cards in your hand because you're going second, of course, right? You're going to have the 6 card that you're just going to normally draw, but also you're going to Fuwalos them sometimes, and you really don't want to draw into redundancy when it comes to your Mitsurugi stuff. You want 1, maybe 2 lines of play, especially with pre-preparation, because now you have the chance to draw into 2 pre-prep, or you have the chance to draw into Mirror plus pre-prep, and you really just don't want to have that. And then when I'm going first, it's a little bit different. So I'm still bringing in Retaliating Sea because it's really good versus that deck. But Double Cyclone is like not as effective versus that deck. So when I am going first, I take out all the Dark Rulers, because if you look at the Draco Tail list, not very many of the Draco Tail lists are actually playing Dark Ruler in them. So we take out all of those, and then I also take out 2 Drolls, because once again, we still want to leave 1 in for the Crossout, but we don't really want to see this card versus their engine. And then I take out 2 Fuwalos. That way we still have Crossout live for Fuwalos, Droll, Nib, and then we have Talent's Judgment, which are obviously just very strong go first cards into that deck. And then Retaliating Sea is still going to be very effective versus them. One thing that's really important to note is versus this deck, Retaliating Sea is broken going first if you do play Gorgon. Being able to Gorgon kind of freeze a line of play they have. So if like normal summon Malulu, you can use the Gorgon to kind of blank the Malulu effect, but also making it to where it can't attack is very, very good. Especially if you like Retaliating Sea them, or like even if you do it for like a Lucas, like the normal Lucas effect, you can chain Gorgon, put it to their guy, and then when they do activate the fusion summon, Retaliating Sea them, and then Gorgon kind of pins the Lucas, so all you have to deal with is like the 1 random fusion monster they're able to actually make. So Gorgon like helps with Retaliating Sea when you're specifically going first. The matchup itself is pretty easy for Draco Tail when we're actually going first. So if we do resolve our full combo and we summon Herald, we're going to play Protect the Tower. It's the same thing as like Yummy into the Draco Tail deck. We try to keep our Herald online as long as possible, because it's just a broken floodgate versus them, right? I mean, they're not able to Rahu effectively because they're losing a card from their hand and from their deck, and they're just banishing them. And like, there's summoning an Arthalion, maybe, but like, what is he going to do? He's kind of useless. He bounces 1 card. I mean, they may use it on your Herald. At that point, I mean, even if you like just purification it, like who cares? Or you can use your IP at that point in time to Gorgon to freeze their Arthalion they summon off of their Rahu or their Ketu or whatever scary threat they may have. But Herald like floodgating them is like the most important thing, and so keeping that online is it's the main goal. Droplet is also a very, very good card versus this matchup when you resolve your combo. The main goal is to get Herald stuck on the field, right? Their best counter into you getting Herald in the field is them normal summoning Malulu and using the effect, because it kind of forces you to either use the Herald there or use like another sort of interaction, because they can fuse with the Herald or the Malulu from their field, and then just banish any random card from their hand. And since the Malulu goes to graveyard, they'll get like Chainlink 1, Malulu, Chainlink 2, Arthalion, and they actually get to like effectively push through the board there. But if you droplet their Malulu, which you can do because you're just not going to send a monster most times, you're usually going to send the field spell with your droplet. It's going to half the Malulu, so now he's 550, so now he can't attack over your Herald. He also can't attack over your Snatchy, even if you lose your field spell. And it's going to stop the effect right there, but it also like kind of stops the battle phase interaction of it because he's too small to really do anything now. That's basically the entirety of the Draco Tail deck broken down. The matchup, like I said, it's not super great if they win the die roll, but post-side, it's pretty manageable, having Double Cyclone and Retaliating Sea. If you guys don't know the purpose of Double Cyclone, it's for their Flame. So the Draco Tail Flame, you'll activate a really powerful spell card, like you'll activate Mitsurugi Ritual, and they'll chain Flame targeting the Mitsurugi Ritual. You'll be able to chain Double Cyclone to pop your Ritual and also pop like another trap card that they have. A lot of the time you'll know like what their trap cards are, right? Because, I mean, they'll lay them all out for you. You'll try to pop Sting in most situations because you're using your Mitsurugi cards now, and that's the card that hurts your Mitsurugi stuff the most. But effectively, you're dodging the Flame. You're getting rid of the Flame draw because it didn't negate, and you're getting rid of the Sting. So you're effectively trading with multiple trap cards. The draw off of one of them, it just trades very effectively into that deck. It's also not terrible into some of the other decks, like Double Cyclone into the Apophis deck. That deck's not super popular, but it is something you should prepare for. If they use their trap card, their continuous trap, which like non-target negates, if you chain Double Cyclone, you can pop your card that they would assumably be trying to negate, and then pop something else. And that leaves their Apophis to summon and kind of negate something that doesn't really have value, because you don't have to pop their Apophis, or you can pop something else, and so they're still going to resolve the Apophis, but the card that they were wanting to negate is gone. So it has some value there. Into the mirror match, you're going to bring in all 6 of the Chummies. Now, I know I said that this card was kind of like a skill check card, but Purlia is really unique into the mirror match because it's almost always going to give you at least 1 draw. But if you pair that with like another interaction, like you pair that with like an Ash Blossom or any other Chummy, a lot of the time this is going to give you several draws versus them. The other thing is that a lot of people haven't tested against Purlia because, I mean, it's just a card that's kind of new to the format. People cut this card from their deck because, I mean, you really only had to give them 1 draw a lot of the time. But now we're really just looking for Purlia to have a chance to get us more than 1 draw. We need an unfair card versus this deck, honestly. The other thing is, if you do activate Purlia and they have Ash Blossom, they're still going to Ash Blossom this card, right? It does have such a powerful impact to their board because they have to play around this, that it's going to decrease their board ceiling enough that it's worth them using the Ash Blossom. Which means if you have a Fawalos to pair with this, or you have a Meows to pair with your Purlia, you're getting that one to resolve. So Purlia is effectively baiting the Ash Blossom there. Into this matchup, a lot of the time I take out Ash Blossom when I am going second because Ash Blossom's just not going to do enough. Like, I understand there's chances, there's times where they're going to Habakiri, summon Saji, kill Saji effect, and you're going to Ash and they're going to pass. That's not the most likely scenario, right? I mean, if they have a Prayers, a Pre-Preparation of Rites, a Cupsy, a Marshmallow, a Cookie, a Lollipo, a lot of people are citing Prosp in this deck for going first, or they're just playing Prosp in general, or they open a Saji with it, or even just hard opening Mitsurugi Ritual. There's so many punishes for you just ashing that there, that I just don't think it's worth even playing the Ash in your deck going second to him. So I take out the Ash altogether. And then we're going to do the same thing we do versus the Dracotail deck, where you're going to take out the same 3 engine cards. You'll see there's like kind of a pattern with taking out engine cards here. It's Purification, Pre-Prep, and Habakiri. You want to take out all 3 of those when going second, when actually adjusting your engine cards. So that's it for like going second into the mirror match. Like I said, there is a pretty set go first side into pretty much everything here. We're going to take out 2 Dark Horse, take out 2 Full Wallets, and we're going to put in these 4 go first cards right here. There's nothing else you have to do versus the mirror match. You're not going to bring in a Meows just to have the cross out for it. Meows is like a good card versus this deck because it's going to kind of do the same thing that Purlia does, to where it decreases the board ceiling, but you can play around this card pretty efficiently just by using your brain, right? It's a pivot card. It's not going to be, I got Meowsed, what's the combo when I get Meowsed? It's, I got Meowsed, where am I going to go for like a straight line to get to the disruptions I want to while giving them the least amount of draws. And honestly, it's just not worth for a card in your deck it's a brick to just have the cross out for it, which is a 1-of to begin with. So that's what I do here. The other decks in the format, it is pure Yummy, or like Soulful Cord Yummy. We can talk about that deck. I bring in all 6 of these and Nibiru versus that deck, because I will be totally honest with you, Nib is still good versus that deck. Even if they're doing the like Soulful Cord stuff, like Nib is still going to efficiently trade with some part of their inboard. But also you need a punishing card, because if that deck full combos you, even if you have something like a Dark Ruler or a Droplet, there is a good chance that their board just sets up enough interaction to where you're still gonna lose if they get everything to resolve. So you need Nib to like pair with your board breakers all the time if you have the Mulch Armies to resolve. Versus that deck, we're going to take out the same 3 engine cards that we were taking out earlier. And then I also take out Ash Blossom versus that deck. You're going to see that as a common theme versus this deck, or like in these siding patterns. Ash Blossom is just not that great of a card when going second. And so you just have to adjust your deck to be mostly breakers at that point in time. But it's breakers paired with the Floodgate hand traps. You want a Floodgate hand trap that's going to put them on a half board, and then you want a finishing card like Dark Ruler or Droplet to pair with them, or even like the Mitsurugi cards. Those are kind of like board breakers on their own. And then the last card you're going to adjust in the setting pattern is Marshmallow. If I do have to take out any more engine cards, it's almost always one copy of Marshmallow that I take out. And you're only really going to be taking out more additional engine cards versus the like weird Yummy builds. Because Marshmallow is just not great into them. You almost always have to lead with Marshmallow into those decks, because if they do ever resolve Cookie to Book, then Marshmallow is no longer a line of play besides it being your normal summon. There's almost always going to be a better card to normal summon. Because Marshmallow specifically says you have to control no monsters or all light beasts, and face down monsters aren't light beasts, and you still control the monster, and so this guy just gets stuck in your hand like a moron. So this is the siding pattern for when we're going second versus that deck. Let me see here. Yes, that was easier. Okay. And then when we're going first the deck, it's the same, like normal siding pattern. Nothing else you have to do special versus them. Moving on, we have Malice. Malice is a deck that's pretty prevalent in the format. It's not non-existent, and so we should acknowledge it. I played 2 at YCS Pittsburgh, and so, I mean, if we're scaling that down to regionals, I mean, you'll play against one of them, so it's important to know. Versus that deck, you're almost always going to bring in Nib, but you're also going to bring in all 6 of these chummies. It's going to be almost the exact same siding pattern. We're actually going to keep an Ash versus the Malice deck because it works as a breaker versus them. You're going to remove your Drolls, and then we're going to take out the other engine cards that we were doing before. The only difference in this one is that Called By isn't as good into this deck. Like into the Yummy deck, Called By is a great board breaker because you can Call By their Herald. And even if it turns off your Herald, like, I mean, we traded this with like one of the best negates in the game, so who cares? But versus Malice, there's not like an engine card that you can really hit with Called By that's as effective. So we're going to do these 7 when going second. And then when going first, wait, there we go. I love Dueling Book. It's my favorite thing ever. We're going to do the standard siding pattern that we've been doing for everything. This siding pattern is just so efficient because it lets you maximize your side deck space. Like if you've seen like every deck that we are playing against going second, we're bringing in like 6+ cards, which is just giving us such an edge into that deck. And the last deck we have to look at for siding patterns is going to be the Canine decks. Canine, Christian, and Vanquish Soul is pretty much going to be the same setting pattern. I actually bring in Meows versus the Christian deck, which I don't do versus the Vanquish Soul deck. So I guess it is a little bit different. Versus the Vanquish Soul deck, I guess we can do that first. It's remove your trap card, and then we're going to remove these 2. I will be honest, you kind of have to high roll versus that deck when you're going first. The deck doesn't have that many starters, and so Ash Blossom is actually really good versus them. Being able to Ash their Naroi and put them on have like one of their 5 or 6 extenders in their deck is pretty powerful. And so I think it's okay to leave an Ash Blossom versus that deck because you also need like the other cards here in order to like effectively beat that deck. Call By is good versus that deck because the Lupus is part of their inboard, and being able to Call By their Lupus forever is great. And then onto the go first side of that deck, nothing else is changed here. It's just the normal 4. Let's reset. And then Christian Canine. You bring in Meows versus this deck, you actually get more draws off of the Christian stuff because they're going to use Solfafnir effect to revive from Grave in most combos, as well as the Inclusion effect to revive. So there's like 2 additional revives on top of Lantern and the Lupus revive from Graveyard, so Meows does get some value versus this deck. So we're going to bring in these 6 here. We're going to take out the classic engine cards here. It's going to be these 6. And then you can actually take out Dark Ruler versus this deck. Dark Ruler is not super fantastic because almost every variation of this deck is going for some sort of like spell cancel or like FTK thing. And so I think it's okay to like kind of decrease on Dark Ruler. You want to get to a point where they're a little bit scared of hand traps pairing against you when activating the chummies. And so into that specific variation of Christian Canyon where they're like trying to spell cancel, I think it's okay to take out the Dark Ruler. If you don't think they're doing anything with spell canceller, you can like choose to do like some weird siding pattern where you like decrease on like some amount of Ash Blossoms or Called By. But if they're doing the spell canceller thing, you should 100% just be taking out the Dark Rulers, and you may even consider doing this as well. That way you have like a fighting chance. Because if they do resolve that, right, you're gonna lose. The spell canceller, once it sticks, you lose. Your board breakers aren't going to work. Your engine is too weak and loses to the other disruptions they have. Even if like you draw multiple yummy names, I mean, most of the time if you just like normal summon Cupsy, like that thing's dying to infinity like instantly. If you normal summon it, don't use the effect, they're going to use the trap card to just blow it up. And then you try to Marshmallow and they use the infinity to kill that. And so it's pretty rough if they do get the spell canceller to stick. So this is probably the siding pattern I would do versus the spell canceller build. If you're not playing against the spell canceller build, it's just take out Ash Blossom because it's kind of weak into that deck. That's pretty much all the deck's 4 siding patterns. Most of the time in a coaching session, what I'll do at this point in time, because we've burned through most of the session at this point in time, we'll just go over test hands and we'll kind of decide together on which lines of play we would do, and that would help you in certain situations. So starting off with the first test hand here, I want you guys to pause the video, think for just a second, and decide on what you would do starting action here. Okay, what I would do is I would lead with Marshmallow, and I would do that same combo that I showed earlier, where I would actually go into Snatchy, use Snatchy, get Minion, and then use the Minion effect to go ahead and revive our Marshmallow, and then we would go Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. The reason that we're not starting with Prayer Distributing the Habakiri in draw phase is because in this version of the deck, like the small package, you actually kind of lose out on some resources by doing that. It makes you burn through more names in your deck that you efficiently have to. But also, if you are able to resolve your full combo, having an extra Prayers means that you are able to end with Prayers and the Purification on your end board. Not to mention, since we did open like the 2-card combo as well with it, we're going to end with Prayers, Purification, and then we're also going to have a Prayers in our hand for follow-up. So we're going to have like really, really good follow-up on top of this. It also helps you like when you do get interacted with, having an extra Prayers, being able to like summon back a body efficiently, or use it to dodge like a Bestial. One thing that happens a lot in situations like this is if we do get to the point where we're like summoning our Cupsy and we like successfully ritual summon and we have Mirror here, right? Situation like this, since they don't know we have Prayers, we can like Mirror tribute this, special summon back our Habakiri, and then Murakumo effect. If they have a Bestial, which a lot of time they're saving it for this point with Murakumo, right? You're going to be able to chain the Prayers to special summon back your Murakumo to kind of save it for them. And then you'll still resolve the Murakumo as much as possible to either add Purification or add another Prayers depending on the situation. Most of the time it's going to be Prayers because you know they have a Bestial that they're holding in their hand now. But if you do want to like hold the Omni Negates because you're playing against something like Draco Tail, that's definitely something you can do. That's how I would sequence the turn there. You have like basically infinite lines with this hand because your Marshmallow doesn't take your normal summon, which means that if you do get like Belled or... Oh, how did my Marshmallow do that? That was cool. Whoa. Okay, you do get Belled or Bestialed on your minion or Ogre or whatever happens. You can normal summon this Droll as a line of play and synchro with your Snatchy to get you more stuff. You also have 2 lines of play with your Mitsurugi stuff. So if they do like Ash or Saji and they had some way to stop your Mitsu stuff or your Yummy stuff from connecting back to Mitsu stuff, you can still get pretty far by going Purge, tribute the Habakiri, add like a name special from Graveyard, trigger the Habakiri, right? You'll have a lot of stuff in that exact situation. Let's get to the next test hand. Okay, we have Marshmallow, Cupsy, Surprise, Minion, Dark Ruler. In this hand, we are going first, of course. That's mostly how you're going to do test hands. You're just going to assume you're going first. In this test hand here, I think we would try to start with Marshmallow to try to bait interaction here. And then I would go Snatchy effect. A lot of the time I'll activate Snatchy effect even if I have the minion in my hand, especially post side, because some people think that siding Imperm is correct for the Mitsuyami deck, and so they may be tempted to Imperm this since I started with Marshmallow, which is not a guaranteed secondary line of play like Cupsy would be. And so if they Imperm the Snatchy, we like super punish them because we have minion from here. But if they don't, we would go minion revive this, and then I think I would just do the normal line here, and we would just add both the names that we don't already have, and we would pitch the Dark Ruler here. If they do Droll us, we're going to end on almost the entire full board plus an IP just because we have so much stuff. So let's assume they do Droll us, because that's like the scariest thing. That's the only thing that's stopping us from getting to the Mitsu stuff at this point in time with this hand. From here, we would probably go... But normal summon? I'd probably chain to tag out to the Droll. We'd summon these 2 here. I would special summon this. I would link this into a Snatchy. That way I can put this other name in the graveyard. And then I would link these, or sorry, synchro these off into a Lollipo. Lollipo effect would revive these 2. If we get nibbed, it's whatever. We have so many cards in hand, we haven't normal summoned. And then I think the next thing I would do is I would turn these 2 into Sorrow Cat, and then I would turn these into a Herald. That way we just have like our disruption set up now. And then we can go summon here, summon here. We can surprise, summon back this Marshmallow, add this back to our hand. Then we can go for an IP. Yeah, so this would be our board if we get Drolled, which is pretty good, honestly, for opening like a pretty large Yummy hand. You also have the Sorrow Cat in the graveyard, which is really good follow-up. On your opponent's turn, you're going to use the Herald Negate, which is going to get you to a Habakiri. So like you're going to be able to start this next turn by pushing into the board with a Habakiri, which is going to be really powerful. You're also going to have the IP. A lot of the time in this situation with IP, it's just going to go into SP here because we don't have a like good Gorgon angle, really, unless we want to use our Snatchy. Or you can use the Snatchy effect to like synchro first, technically. But yeah, this is probably going to be turning into an SP to help us live. That's how I would sync this or sequence this board here. If we don't get Drolled, like I said, we're going to follow like the same normal 1-card combos that I've been showing off earlier. Opening 2 Yummy cards doesn't change my sequencing about how I do things. There is technically some other variations of the combo that I can show off. So like the builds that don't play Gorgon, a lot of the time they're playing Star Ham. Ooh, let me see if I can find him. Here he is. Ooh, uh-oh. there he is, little guy. And what they're doing with this Star Ham is they're basically making a herald with it before committing to any sort of ads. You have to have Marshmallow specifically with it to be like the most efficient here. But basically all you do is you go Marshmallow, link 1 to Snatchy, Snatchy place minion effect to revive the Marshmallow, turn these two into a Lollipo, revives back your 2 morons, your 2 little yummy guys, and then you'll synchro these off into the Star Ham guy we just put in our deck. Use the effect, pitch a card, and then you'll be able to revive this back as a tuner. And then you'll be able to synchro these into Herald. At this point in time, we've done no ads, so we can special summon the Lollipo from our hand, and then synchro these off into Cupsy Yummy Way. Use Cupsy Yummy to go ahead and add your other Cupsy, as well as like a cookie. It's just some name that you can special summon. And then you can either pitch the cookie, or you can just pitch a card in your hand. For this combo, I think you just pitch a card in your hand, because you're trying to get like as far as possible without like really injuring yourself. Because we have the Habakiri here, I would actually pivot this a little bit differently, and this would be a second Marshmallow, and then I would just discard the second Marshmallow because it's going to get banished from the Herald. We're going to pretend that we don't have this Habakiri, though, or else that would make our lines of play really good here, because we'd make the Herald, and then we'd be able to use our Habakiri here to get to like literally everything. So we're going to assume that this is like a... No, that's too broken. We're going to assume it's like a Dark Ruler. Okay. So you get here, and then you can special your Cupsy Yummy. We've basically added now for free without being able to get drolled. Like, not even to where we have to negate the droll. Like, they literally cannot activate it because we have our Herald in the field. Especially the Cupsy Yummy. Use the effect of this now to add our Surprise. Once again, can't get drolled here because we're broken. And then you can actually just go ahead and turn these into an IP, which is going to trigger the Herald effect to add now. So this will add your Habakiri. If you get drolled at this point in time, because this is the first opportunity they have to droll you, you're going to end on the full Yummy board because of like the amount of interactions you have. So if they would droll you, you'd go to effect, tag this out. You'd summon your Lollipo, as well as just like a random name. And then you'd be able to use your Surprise. Surprise would summon back the Marshmallow. You'd get Marshmallow effect to add this back. And then you can turn these into your Sorrow Cat. Turn the Sorrow Cat into like an SP if you want. And then you can use this. Summon back by putting this back. We're supposed to summon this guy earlier, I guess. But then you can synchro these and like Herald again. And then you'll have Surprise. And this isn't the situation where you like get drolled. This IP can go into Gorgon, so you'll have like some interaction still if you play that. There's probably a better way to sequence it. Like I said, this is a build that I haven't spent the most time testing. I'm not super sold on the fact that you're going to go for Star Ham and discard your entire hand. In the build where you play the extra bricks, it's okay, because it's worth doing in that situation if you open any Yummy name plus any Mitsu name, because you have a way to get back to your Yummy stuff. And this build, like I said, I'm not super sold on it, but it is something you can consider if it's something that you want to do. That's going to be pretty much it for the video. I don't know how close I am to the hour mark. I might be like 50 minutes, but who cares? Cry about it. Sorry. If you guys want to get the homeless merch, check it out. It's in the description box down below. 50% goes to charity. All of this stuff is super high quality. So if you guys want to get it and wear it, because I think it looks good, it's like streetwear, you're more than welcome to. Like I said, 50% goes to charity. It's Family Promise. That's the name of the organization that I'm kind of partnered with to give as much as I can to them, because it's literally helping people, and it's a great thing. If you guys had any questions about the deck itself, combos, different questions, because a lot of the time coaching sessions are just like a rebuttal. Like, you have questions about certain cards, I will answer as many as I can in the comment section to try to make this as close to a real coaching session as possible. If you guys want to see a different deck, or me do this with a different deck, or if you think I wasted my time by talking for an hour, let me know as well, because I would love to not waste an hour in the future if you guys really think that. Either way, I appreciate you guys watching the video. If you guys wouldn't mind liking, commenting, and subscribing, I appreciate it, and I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic day. Thanks. Bye.